I think we'll all agree that success comes from winning and losing. So you learn from what fails and you learn from what succeeds, and you build on that, and over time you succeed. So the immature way of thinking is that you'll succeed every time. So here we come to a very important point: how to handle disappointment. Disappointment often overflows in anger, hopelessness, and this is a very immature way of thinking because that is not how life works. Life has a lot of disappointments, and the mature way of thinking about this is when you get disappointed about something, you're actually learning things that don't work. And you need that as much as things that do work to build a successful future in anything. Okay, and disappointment creates a lot of anger. As you can see there, unpacking the different types of anger, it is very important to realize that anger is a secondary emotion. There are emotions in you that cause you to be angry. Anger is a gift from God, but you should not let anger go over into sin. Anger is there to not for you to become sinful and do wicked things, but for you to take action. So God has given us anger so that you can take action to get out of certain situations, not to explode and repeat the same situations with the same people. Get away from those people or sort the problem out with those people. So it's important to build perspective about anger. Look at the 5 by 5 rule. If it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes being upset about it. Isn't it fascinating? Statistics show that about 90% of what we worry about actually doesn't happen. And how many things have we been upset about? Potential romantic relationships, whatever it is, that we actually thank God later on that it did not happen. We are angering ourselves way too much about things we actually going to be grateful for that didn't happen. To build perspective and to control yourself is extremely important. A second thing, anger can be a great indication that you do not have faith in God because you do not believe in the supremacy of God. The doctrine of God's supremacy is that every piece of cosmic dust is in place and as He wants it. He can turn everything that is bad in your life to good. Everything for those who love Him, He can turn to become good. So this is extremely important. Anger can potentially disrespect God. Listen to this guy's story about having perspective about anger. Sorry, just a quick interruption here. I love the story about Paul and Silas in the prison, in stocks, I think it was, beaten with rods, 12 o'clock at night. I think the prisoners heard them singing praises to God. What a different perspective to their situation. And then the angel appeared and they were released. How incredible. Are you going to trust God in your periods of stress and anger and worry, or are you going to think like the world? I just want to start with these two scriptures here before I play this next piece. You don't understand what I'm doing, but someday you will. I think a lot of people, everyone I think, wonders why certain things happen to them, especially painful things. And then this next one, do not fear, only believe.
He says, I need you to download this tape, this Sandy Beach tape. Sandy Beach is a big speaker. The speech was, he was talking about this Chinese farmer. And this Chinese farmer and his son, they're picking radishes about the ground. And they don't own the land that they're farming off of. And they're barely subsisting. They're giving 70% to the landowner. They're living off of 30% of these radishes. Their whole financial legacy is tied up into this workhorse. And one day, and the son is really working the land because the man is too old. And one day the workhorse runs up off the hill. He's up the hill. And the son runs into the house and he shakes his dad up and he says, Dad, you're not going to believe this is a travesty. We're going to die out here. I can't get these radishes to grow unless I turn this land over, and I can't move that hoe without the horse, and the horse is gone. This is a nightmare. And The old man, nonplussed, looks at his son. He goes, I don't know what this is, son. I don't know if it is a nightmare. I can't call it. The son thinks his dad's out to lunch, or like ambivalent, or something's wrong, or he's too old. And a couple days later, the kid is chilling on the porch and he sees the horse running down the hill with 50 wild stallions behind it. And they run into the paddock, and he locks the paddock, and he runs inside, and he hits the dad. He's like, man, she's like, we're rich, you know, we're in the horse business. We're in the horse trading business now. This is a miracle, Dad. I'm gonna go tell everybody we're trading horses now. And the father looks at his son, nonplussed again, and says, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's a miracle. I can't call it. And a couple more days pass, and the son's trying to break these horses down, domesticate these horses. He didn't know anything about horses. He's a radish farmer. So one of the horses ain't having it. He rears up, kicks him in his leg. It's like 1400s China. There's no Kaiser Permanente. It is shattered. They wrap him in some like tobacco leaves and sprinkle some mint on it. Go sit in a chair for a while, and he's wailing, and the townspeople hear about it. And the townspeople run up on the little shack, and oh man, what are you gonna do? You know, you can't domesticate these horses. You can't move this hoe. I don't know what you're gonna do, but this is pretty much the end, right? Like, this is a nightmare. And the old man says, I don't know what this is. He looks at his son's leg. He goes, I don't know what this is. I can't really call it. A couple more days pass. He's sitting with his son. He's trying to calm him down. He's in the middle of pain, and they hear this thunderous noise, and they look up on the ridge line, and they see 5,000 samurai on horseback running towards their little hut. And the commanding officer gets off his horse and says, give us your son. We're going to fight the Maoist army. And he looks at his son's leg, and he looks back at the samurai army, and he goes, I would, but he can't get out the chair. You know, he can't get on his, he can't. No, I can't. I would, but I can't. He's crippled. And the man gets back on his horse, and 8,000 men ride off to their death. And I listen to this tape, and I driving back from the beach back to where I'm living, and I get out of my car, and her bags are packed. She's on her way out. And old me would have ripped my shirt off Hulk Hogan style and ran down the street and jumped over the fence, and that guy. And something in me, from having heard what I just heard, what feels like this is now I can't get no lower. I hear this like I can't call it. And it becomes like this, the most diplomatic breakup I ever had in my life. And I say, what can I do? And can I get you a car?
So just remember, I don't know if you heard what he said. I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend, but her bags were packed. She was going. She was leaving him. Now, this can literally be one of the worst days of his life, maybe the very worst day of his life. I don't know if he had children, and she's taking the children, and he's alone. But look at the power of the story. Look at the power of believing the best is yet to come. We as Christians can infinitely more believe that God is in control of our lives, and he says, for those who love him, everything works out for the better.